Yo, what's good everyone? One Piece chapter 1189 is packed with action and some huge lore reveals. While the battle in Elbaph continues, Oda gives us new details about Emu, the Void Century, the world government, and the Empty Throne. We also learn more about Emu's mysterious weapons and powers, uncover new lore surrounding Shanks, and get even more insight into the secrets of the world government. Before we jump in, if you enjoy these weekly One Piece chapter breakdowns, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe. This channel is dedicated to covering every new chapter with detailed explanations and analysis, so if that's something you're into, consider sticking around. Now, let's dive straight into some peak One Piece. The chapter picks up where things left off. Luffy has already been stabbed by the Bofu sword, the sword of nothingness, and he is pinned against a withered dead tree, blood pouring from his mouth. It is not a small wound. The bleeding is heavy, the kind that brings back memories of the first time Kaido knocked him completely out. Far from the fight, Usopp goes quiet. He stares in the direction of where Luffy is and asks if Luffy is all right. Nami immediately snaps at him not to say something that frightening out loud. She insists Luffy is fine, he has to be. Jinbei cuts in with a more honest read of things, reminding her that whoever Luffy is facing out there already took down a giant. Nobody should be treating this fight lightly. Nearby, Loki is lying wounded on the ground next to Ragnar. He catches Jinbei's comment about someone being defeated and immediately fires back, demanding to know who Jinbei is calling defeated, and barely managing to breathe while doing it. Jinbei clarifies what he actually means. He says there is no question about it at this point. Luffy's haki has been suddenly and significantly weakened. At the same time, Brook has managed to get to Princess Shuri. The ice that had encased Gunko melted after Ragnar's earlier collision, and in the process, Brook was able to free Shuri as well, though she is still unconscious. Her bandaged figure is finally visible now that the ice is gone. Frankie is quick to warn everyone not to warm her up too fast. Brook almost immediately tries to casually ask the princess who she really is and what her story is. Usopp is already watching the whole situation with visible skepticism. Ragnar is right there too, squeaking with what is very clearly a warning, presumably trying to tell everyone that Gunko is not someone to be trusted. Brook does not understand a word of it and just tells Ragnar to stay back. Then Gerd and Hadrudin arrive. Their ship, the Sval, comes in and the landing is not what anyone would call controlled. They crash directly into Loki, who was already in a critical state. Chopper's guard point absorbs the impact and cushions Gerd's landing. She ends up buried in the giant fluffy ball of fur, and her immediate reaction is to hug it and call it dependable. When she gets her bearings and goes to check on Loki's injuries, he is not pleased. He yells at her, because the Sval crashing on top of him made things worse, not better, and apparently this is not even the first time someone trying to help has ended up making his injuries worse. Hadrudin, for his part, is completely rattled. Hadrudin then thinks back to what Jarul told him before he left. Jarul instructed him to stop worrying about the current fight and get himself to Loki. When Hadrudin raised concerns about the children, Jarul told him that getting the children to safety is only the first step, not the whole picture. Jarul said he was puzzled by the apparent decision to invade Elbaph, and then he said he does not actually think this was the Reverie's decision at all. He believes it is the work of Emu. Back in the present, Hadrudin turns to Loki and asks him directly whether he knows who Emu actually is. Loki says he does, at least somewhat. The chapter then cuts back to where Luffy is pinned against the tree. Emu is not finished with a single weapon. From the ring of black fire, he summons a second blade, one called Fraggarok, the sword of the sea god. In Irish mythology, Fraggarok was the weapon of the sea deity Manannan Mac Lir, and its defining trait was that no one could move or lie when it was pointed at them. With Luffy held completely in place, Emu begins speaking to him directly and with obvious contempt. He brings up Luffy's full name and treats it like an insult. He then brings up the two older brothers, one who was executed by the Marines and one who built a name for himself in the Revolutionary Army. As Emu speaks, the power of Fraggarok is shown directly. He points the blade at a nearby tree and it shatters completely in an instant. It becomes clear that each of these legendary weapons Emu is summoning carries its own distinct ability. And then Emu drives Fraggarok into Luffy as well, using both swords together to pin him completely to the tree. Luffy is now skewered between two legendary weapons from 800 years ago, unable to move at all, with blood still pouring from his mouth. The implication Emu is making is clear. He sees these three brothers as a recurring problem, and he intends to end it right here. The chapter cuts back to Loki, who says that he recognizes Emu. He says this is the same person that red-haired Shanks had warned him about. And then the chapter pulls into a flashback. The scene is the immediate aftermath of Harald's death. Jarul, Loki, Shanks, and Gyaban are all present. Loki stands there, burning with grief and rage, and he declares that with the new ability he now possesses, he is going to get revenge for his father and for every soldier of Elbaph who was lost. Shanks tells him he understands, but asks Loki to be patient. Loki immediately fires back, asking if Shanks is actually telling him not to avenge his father. Shanks says he doesn't mean that at all, and that he wants Loki to get that revenge, because Harald was his friend too. But then he tells Loki something larger. He says to think carefully. The world government just tried to take over Elbaph. What they are doing is preparation, getting ready for a war that is coming, and Loki and all of Elbaph need to understand that and start preparing for it properly. Loki does not want to hear any of that. He dismisses the whole framing. He is not thinking about world wars or long-term strategy. He is thinking about his father, the soldiers, and the destruction the rocks brought. He says he is not waiting around and planning anything. He is going to fight whoever caused this. Shanks asks him who exactly his enemy is. Loki says, the world government, all of it. Shanks then tells him the truth. The one who possessed Harald, the one pulling the strings behind everything, is the king of the world. Jarul's reaction is one of genuine shock. He says the very concept of a singular king ruling over everyone goes against everything the world government claims to stand for. The empty throne, the oath of the 20 kings, all of it was built on the principle that no one person would hold that position. Loki's response is about as direct as it gets. Fine, then he will just kill this king. Simple as that. Shanks warns him that even getting to the Holy Land is already extremely difficult, and that this person's power is on a level beyond anything anyone has encountered. He then adds something significant. There was one person who actually managed to reach the Holy Land, and that person was Rox himself. And even that is the bar Loki is looking at. Shanks tells him it is not time yet, but Loki turns away and refuses to listen. He tells Shanks he does not get to give him orders, and that he will destroy everything in his path until he reaches the king of the world. Jarul steps in and warns him not to do anything reckless. The flashback ends there. Back in the present, Loki reflects on how it went. He says that during those years he spent away from Elbaph, he was not able to reach to Emu. But now Emu has come to the island himself. Loki sees this as the opportunity he has been waiting for. Hadrudin tells him the idea is ridiculous, but in the same breath says he is not stopping him, and that he wants in too. Killing the person responsible for their father's death is something every one of them wants a shot at. The Straw Hats have been listening to all of this, and Nami is the one who asks the question, if this person is really the king of the world, what are the 5 elders for? Over at the standoff with Gunko, Ragnir is still trying to get Brook to understand that something is wrong here. Brook is getting frustrated. Then Chopper steps in and finally translates what Ragnir has been saying this whole time, and what Ragnir reveals is that he is the one who froze Gunko, because she is dangerous. Chopper's reaction to learning this is immediate and very loud. He cannot believe it. Brook takes a breath and acknowledges that yes, she is dangerous, but someone was manipulating her. That is not who she actually is. He says she is like a daughter to him, which leaves Ragnir visibly baffled about how a skeleton ended up with a daughter like this. Robin decides to make a move. She tells Chopper to come with her right away, and they head toward the Owl Library. From inside, Saul calls out to them. Robin is most likely planning to dig into whatever Biblo and that library are actually hiding. Back at the tree, Luffy is still completely pinned to the tree. And here, Emu summons a third weapon for himself, the Xingtian axe. The way he introduces it is almost unsettling in how casual it is, like an apology that something this serious has to be used next, as if the weapon itself demands a certain gravity. Luffy cannot react. He cannot move at all. The chapter then shifts over to the Western Village Sea Cloud port, where Zoro and Sommers are still locked in their fight. Zoro puts everything into it, using his Supreme King, Haki, and launching King of Hell 3 sword style, Dragon Damnation. Sommers stops it cold, using Graham. And then Sommers explains. 800 years ago, the 19 kings who built the current world made a vow of equality. They placed their weapons around the empty throne as a physical oath, a symbol that no one of them would ever stand above the rest. Those weapons had names: Tohu, Bohu, Nemesis, Longinus, Stigma, Muramasa, and the others. Every one of them belonged to one of the original 19 founding monarchies. The only weapon missing is most likely the one that belonged to the 20th ruler, Nefertari Lily of Alabasta, who rejected the world government and returned to her homeland. With the exception of the 20th ruler, every ruler surrendered their weapon, and now every one of those weapons is under Imu's control. Somers tells Zoro that when Imu revived him and Killingham with Omen, he gave them access to these weapons as well. The power of these weapons does not just belong to Imu. It runs through the great houses. Somers' family, House Shepherd, holds Graham. Killingham's family, the Rimoshifu, holds Longinus. Zoro and Sanji, by extension, are fighting weapons that were used to construct the foundations of the world itself. Whether either of them can find a way through after Omen's enhancement and these legendary arms on top of it is a question the chapter leaves open. Then it goes back to Luffy and Imu. Imu raises the Xingtian axe over the pinned and motionless Luffy. The framing is unmistakably that of an execution. Imu tells Luffy that he should feel honored to die at the hands of the one who constructed this world. And then Scopper Gyabon appears. The left hand of the Pirate King steps onto the battlefield at the last possible moment and blocks the Xingtian axe with his own 2 axes, catching Imu's strike before it can reach Luffy. The editor's note on the page reads, "Here comes the left hand of the Pirate King." The chapter ends there. Alright everyone, that's it for One Piece chapter 1189. If you enjoyed the breakdown, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching.